This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR. Presented by the Children's Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Foundation, Larry Burns.
Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caring for Kids August edition. And you might have noticed we have a new theme song that's Doing the D by my good friend Alexander Zonchek. Tonight we have a great episode featuring three very special guests who are all making huge strides in advancing the health and the wellness of children and families. Joining us tonight will be Kevin Spizarny and Jaime White from Higuera Health, and Ken Daniels and Lisa Daniels Goldman of the Jamie Daniels Foundation, and Mike Boback of Delta Dental. It's all coming up next on Caring for Kids here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Joining us in the studio are Kevin Spizarny and Jaime White of Higuera Health. Higuera Health is a private nonprofit organization that offers specialized mental health and substance abuse treatment to individuals of all ages and primary care physician services as well. They service more than 10,000 people each year through a comprehensive network of health clinics and behavioral health programs. Kevin is the administrator of programs of Higuera. Kevin has 15 years experience working with children as a therapist, a supervisor, and an administrator. Kevin started his career working in the Wayne County Juvenile Justice System and also supervised a mental health program for foster care children. Kevin holds his bachelor's degree in human development and family studies from Penn State University and his master's degree of social work from the University of Michigan. And also joining Kevin is Jaime White. Jaime is a licensed professional counselor and the Director of Clinical Development and Crisis Services at Higuera Health. Jaime also has more than 15 years of experience in the human services field. Jaime earned her Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from the University of Michigan and her Master of Education in Human Development Counseling from Vanderbilt University. Jaime, tell us about Higuera Health and your programs related to children. And as you know, it's one of our focus areas. And so tell us about what you're doing with kids.
Absolutely. So Higuera Health is a large, comprehensive nonprofit behavioral health organization. We actually serve people birth through older adults, so children, adolescents, and their families.
Good.
We have a total of 6 locations around Wayne County with about 30 different programs. Specific to our children's services, we provide a wide array of outpatient and community-based services. So we offer individual, family, and group therapy, psychiatric evaluations, and medication management services. And then we also provide a lot of services in the community. So we try and meet the needs at the children's homes, working with the parents.
Go to the homes.
We go to the homes, working with the children and their families, helping with parenting skills and more intensive interventions for children in need. We also have programs in a few area school districts where it's really focused on early identification of mental health issues. And we provide evidence-based prevention curriculum focused on mental health promotion, suicide prevention, and substance use prevention.
Well, those are all things that we are either funding right now, topics and programs, and if we're not funding, we certainly are interested. So thank you. That's an awful lot. Mm-hmm. And so, Kevin, explain your mental health model and how it can serve as a prevention strategy to help young children avoid unhealthy behaviors later in life?
Sure. So that's a great question. So I'd say in general, one of our models is to not only provide services for the child themselves, but the entire family. And because we're working with children, we know the best way to see improvement is not only to address their behaviors, but also help ensure healthy development, which is really done through the entire family. So most of our programs receive services not only for the child, but the whole family. Either it's through our psychiatrists, through therapists, but also case managers, and our wraparound facilitators as well. And one of the things we know is that research shows that a lot of adults didn't receive service, adults with mental health and behavioral health issues didn't necessarily receive services when they were younger. So we see it as a prevention model, the idea of addressing these behaviors when our children are young and really in those important developmental stages. One of the things we know is when we do intervene with young children, we see better results later on in life as far as their behavioral and mental health, but also their physical health as well. And that's really important when we're working with clients who've experienced trauma. We see great results when we address those trauma issues early on in life, specifically with their physical health later on in life.
Great. Those are all things that I hear about a lot, and I often say, what happens to a child with behavioral health issues that is not diagnosed? They become an adult with behavioral health
Very
issues,
true.
and so you talked about that. And we're talking with our friends from Untitled Health, Kevin Spizarny,
Yep.
And Jaime White, and so there's some things that I'm not aware of that I wanted maybe Jaime or Kevin to explain, and that's both reflective supervision and the parallel process and how these IHM strategies help not only the child and the family, but also, this is very critical to what I hear about in the community, help support the clinician avoid burnout, which is a real concern. So, Jaime, you want to start?
Sure.
I'll have Kevin take that
No,
one.
sure, I can speak to that. So IMH is infant mental health. So this is clinicians working with mothers and fathers and caregivers with their early child, so 0 through 3 years old, in those important developmental ages. So one of the ways that reflective supervision is helpful is that basically the supervisor is working with that clinician to address feelings and themes that come up for that clinician. So our clinicians, all of them were children, and some of them are parents, and issues and things can come up in themselves when they're working with our families with lots of needs. So reflective supervision addresses not only the work the clinician's doing with the family, but also what is coming out for that clinician. So it helps avoid burnout in a way because what they're doing is they're allowing to unburden themselves of these feelings and things that are coming up in a session to really allow them to be present to the client. It also helps them to get a closer relationship with their supervisor and get a level of trust that allows them to bond with that supervisor and work through these issues. And really what it does is it helps them to also address self-care, so areas for clinicians to take care of themselves.
Yeah, they're just people too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're working with families with a lot of issues and a lot of things going on, and it can really be really wear down a clinician over time. So reflective supervision really helps
That's
to
terrific.
avoid those things.
We hear a lot about nurses in ER, nurses even just at a children's hospital that just after a few years they need a break, and hopefully we're now taking care of that so that we can keep these great people because they're just people too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Jaime, you want to add anything about that? And you're a clinician, right?
I am. I'm a clinician by training.
Right.
One of the things that we're doing specifically at Untitled Health is we have developed a internal critical incident stress management team. So that's available to all of our staff, and we've actually been working with other organizations in the community, local law enforcement departments to offer this service to them as well. And essentially that's whenever a real critical incident happens in the organization, whether that be, a patient gets injured or is ill, or they're involved in witnessing something traumatic,
bad,
that we're able to come in and provide a debriefing for our staff, and then refer them to ongoing services in the community if needed. So that's been very helpful over the past year and a half that we've had that service, and we think that it's really helped with the overall wellness of our staff and to help them kind of recognize, signs and symptoms of compassion fatigue and burnout ongoing.
Yeah, I can see how that could happen. So I spend a lot of my time talking to people like yourselves and other partners. We now have 66 partners that we are funding or working with. So what are you, and either of you, Jaime or Kevin, can answer this, what are you seeing trending-wise with kids, regardless of their age? Are there things that you're seeing more often than maybe 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and that concern you? And can you address that a little bit?
Sure. So I can speak, I guess, a little to that. I think one of the helpful things that we're seeing is that this kind of idea of stigma. So the stigma behind mental health and children not wanting to talk or people not wanting to get services. I think we've seen a real breakthrough in a lot of the ways in that area where I think people are more open, schools, doctors' offices, hospitals, talking about mental health and the importance of mental health. I think that's really been, for me, a breakthrough. So I kind of keep this on a strength-based approach. I see that as a real benefit that people are willing to come in. I also think it's interesting because just as we were walking in, we saw something where they were talking about social media and the link to depression. Right. And obviously it's kind of early on. We're still kind of trying to figure out where social media is running. But I know for us, the challenges of kind of this modern cyberbullying or this modern way of for a lot of us that didn't grow up with this, trying to see with our children. So we're spending time talking with our young people and how is this affecting them. And we're finding that in a lot of ways it is true for what we're seeing, where children are depressed or bothered by the lack of likes on a post or how the responses, the posts that they do give out.
They're not invited to a party and they know about it because they see all the pictures.
Correct. It's much different. So in the past, I guess when we were children, something negative said about us, it just moved on or the people were there.
Or you never heard about it.
Correct. And now it's for the whole world to see. So I think that in the challenge is that we're seeing these things we have to work with, but the benefit is that the stigma seems a lot less than it used to be, where kids and families are more comfortable coming in to see us to work on behavioral and mental health issues.
That is a major correction and movement. We hear that too at the university level. We're working now with MSU in particular, and they opened up a walk-in clinic a year or so ago, and I think when we were visiting there, the psychologist said that they have 40 walk-ins a day that sort of describe, I have some issues. And so when I was in college, that wouldn't have happened. You would have not told anyone. You would have kept it to yourself and probably not get better anytime soon. So that's great progress. And so the Children's Foundation is trying to be an advocate for breaking down the stigma. Mm-hmm. So Jamie, before we close, tell us a little bit more about how folks can either get connected to Higuera or anything else you want our listeners to know.
The best source of information is our website, which is higuerahealth.org. That lists all of our programs and services, and then our phone number to get connected to services is there.
Good, great, thank you. Kevin, anything else you want to add for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one specific program, if you shortly, I'd like to highlight. It's called our Neonatal Wraparound program.
Okay.
So our Neonatal Wraparound program, we're the only one in the county providing the service. So we have a peer mentor and a wraparound facilitator that work with pregnant mothers who are also have substance use disorder.
Okay.
And we can work with them all the way up until their child is 6 months old. And what we're doing is coordinating their services with substance abuse, their appointments in their medical facilities with whether it's CPS, DHS, whoever they're involved with, trying to, if possible, prevent that child being taken from the parent early on. We know attachment is so important. Really, I wanted to kind of highlight that program because we're continuing to look for families we really want to serve the community in that way.
Yes. And I assume you have some kind of relationship with Children's Hospital directly or indirectly.
Absolutely. We've been to all of the major hospitals in Wayne County, so it's a Wayne County program.
Okay, good. Well, thank you both for the work you're doing. I know a lot more now about Higuera Health, and we'll spread the word. So keep it up.
Thanks so much for having us on.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was Kevin Spizarny and Jamie White from Higuera Health. And coming up next, we're going to hear from Ken Daniels and Lisa Daniels-Goldman about what they're working on with the Jamie Daniels Foundation. That's when Caring for Kids continues here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR. Presented by the Children's Foundation.
Welcome back, everybody. Larry Burns here for Caring for Kids August edition. In the studio are our partners, Ken Daniels and Lisa Daniels-Goldman. I'll start with Ken first. In 1997, Ken Daniels achieved his lifetime goal of becoming the TV play-by-play voice of a National Hockey League team, hired by our very own Detroit Red Wings to be their lead hockey announcer on Fox Sports Detroit. Having grown up in Toronto, Ken knew the sports scene well, and by 1985 was working simultaneously in radio and television. And this season, when Ken and Mickey Redmond get back in their spots, it'll be their 23rd consecutive season, which I believe is currently the longest-standing duo in the NHL. Is that true, Ken?
TV-wise, yep.
Yes, awesome. Ken is also the co-founder of the Jaime Daniels Foundation, dedicated to ending the shame and stigma that surrounds drug addiction. Jaime died in his sleep in Florida at the age of 23. The Jaime Daniels Foundation has collaborated with the Children's Foundation to generate awareness about addiction and mental health. So, Ken, welcome.
Thank you, Larry. Great to be here.
Thank you. Lisa Daniels Goldman, we're very happy you're here, Lisa.
Thank you.
Was born and raised in Toronto, Canada, but relocated with her family to Michigan in 1998. As a stay-at-home mom, Lisa stayed busy with her children, sports and dancing and all sorts of things, as good moms do, and volunteering at their schools. Lisa later worked in real estate and started her own baking business. That I didn't know. After Jaime died in 2016, Lisa shut down her business and focused her time solely on the opioid addiction. As co-founder of the Jaime Daniels Foundation, Lisa has spoken in front of numerous audiences, including the United States House of Representatives. So, Lisa and Ken, welcome.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. As my mother taught me, I'm going to start with ladies first.
She taught you well.
She did. She's 100, by the way.
Wow.
Seriously.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago she turned 100.
Isn't that awesome?
That's
Happy
incredible.
birthday, Mom. So congratulations on all the accomplishments that you two and Arlen and others have done and achieved in only a year, which I think is very impressive. And so what, Lisa, are you most proud of so far in this journey?
Well, I guess I have to say the grant that we wrote to Michigan State University Collegiate Recovery has a special place in my heart. Jaime was a graduate of Michigan State,
Yes.
and despite occurrences up at college and what can happen in college, it was a proud day in June to announce that grant, and to know that the kids who want to return to their education, who went through recovery, who are in recovery now, have an opportunity, have peer recovery coaches, have a place to turn, which, in our experience with Jaime, was very difficult to find.
Yes.
And it's becoming a lot easier. So that was... And to do
you're
something
very
like that
proud.
in a year is incredible.
Yeah, right. And just to make sure everybody's aware of what Lisa's referring to, is that the Jaime Daniels Foundation, in partnership with the Children's Foundation, made a grant in June to support an RA for the recovery area in a dorm at MSU. And that program is growing. It's only a year old. As well as for scholarship funds for the students. Sometimes when you have a lot of issues, you might lose some of your funding. So we want to make sure that they not only can be supported to stay in school, but supported financially. So that was a proud day for us, too, to do that in conjunction with the Jaime Daniels Foundation. Ken, you want to add anything that you're proud of as well?
I'm proud of the outpouring of support that never ceases to surprise the people for what we're trying to do. And I think just getting the word out where the shame and stigma, I think for the first year where we did not speak about it until the story came out publicly in the athletic subscription sports service, and then meeting you and through Matt Friedman, and just getting the ball rolling, and what we've been able to do in a short couple of years is incredible. And the people who've come up to me saying, I know your foundation has saved lives. I know your story that the family has told has saved lives. I know kids personally who would have done this or that, but you speaking out and their families knowing what can happen and not to hide behind that shame and stigma has made a huge difference. And I've, if not 10, 20 times, I've heard that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That really makes me proud.
You should be proud of that. So we're talking with Ken Daniels and Lisa Daniels Goldman from the Jaime Daniels Foundation. And so along the way, not only the last year, but the last few years, what have you learned? I'll start with Ken this time on as it relates to helping others with addiction and prevention. And there has to be some things that have surprised you or you've learned about, and I think our listeners would like to hear that.
It's all about talking about it, first of all, that we didn't. And we didn't as a family. And my family was pretty peeved after Jaime passed and I called them with that shocking news because they thought he was fine. Because he was in sobriety in Florida for those 6 or 7 months clean. I'd spoken to them on the phone. I'd been there, and we were all on the phone laughing, talking.
Right.
And then to find out what happened, because we didn't even share with our family outside of Lisa and her husband and my wife and Arlen. No one knew because we hid behind that. So I learned we can't do that. And I learned how much empathy matters, which is the highest form of knowledge, without judgment. I've learned
without judgment.
Without judgment. Addicts don't want to be addicts.
Right.
Do you think that they want to continue to use? No. Should they have never taken something to begin with? Sure. Jaime tried it in his freshman year in a dorm. A friend turned him on to opioids. He didn't know. A doctor prescribes opioids. It can't be bad. It's prescription medication.
Right.
Well, it turned out it was. And within 5 days, he couldn't turn it off. And then when you try to turn it off when you're addicted, you're so sick, that feeling, that you'll do anything not to have that feeling. So the cognitive responses in your brain say, no, continue to get high. I don't want to be sick. That's why they do it. That's why I say addicts don't want to be addicts. So don't judge. Have empathy. And we're going to find a way.
And talk about it.
And talk about it to get the kids clean.
Thank you. Lisa, you want to add some things there that you've learned along the way?
Well, I totally agree on the judgment. You know, everybody loves to judge what they don't understand,
right.
First of all. What I have learned is the big lesson of corruption in the addiction world. There's no question that, you know, with Jaime having been in recovery and with the insurance fraud and lured into a situation that none of us had any idea even existed. And, you know, nobody said anything. It wasn't a national story at the time. And it basically is what took Jamie's life. And to that knowledge, trying to figure out who to trust and where to go. You know, we didn't talk about it primarily because who do you talk to? You know, we're not gossiping about our own kids.
Right.
We didn't know where to turn. And every time we thought we were, you know, being led down the right path, we hit a wall and you sort of bounce back. And it was a really trying time. And in the few years since Jamie's death, the knowledge that we've gained, the openness, the amount of people that are talking now, and the advocacy groups that are there, and there are places to turn. You read about it, you hear about it. 3 years ago, it wasn't there.
Right. You know, you're absolutely right. So, Jaime Daniels Foundation, talking with Ken Daniels and Lisa Daniels Goldman. We talked about the grant to Michigan State. We talked about all the advocacy speaking that you both do across the country, or countries, Canada included. And so where do you want the foundation, the Jaime Daniels Foundation, to be in 2 years, 3 years?
Digging a hole in the ground.
Okay.
That'll build a recovery center.
Okay, recovery center.
Mm-hmm.
Tell our listeners a little bit about that vision.
Jaime was in a safe place called Sober Living in Delray Beach, Florida, until he was patient brokered and wound up a place that wasn't. And we contend that had he been there for a couple of years, and I've spoken with others who are in the same boat, it's long-term, safe, sober living that is needed. And where you are required to find a job, acclimate back into society, we contend that for those who are addicted to return home with your family, if you're old enough to live on your own, there's the judgment again from your own family.
Right.
Where were you? Who were you out with? What were your friends? Where were you going? What time were you back? You need to go with your peer group. Be on your own. That's a safe place. And that's what we will build. It's not a place with drug addicts running around. That's not what it is. It's a place that's going to have job placement. So you can find your workplace. All your meetings are there, whether it be music therapy, art therapy, gymnasium. What addicts do, they need direction every day. Addicts need to keep busy. Jaime was working out twice a day. Mm-hmm. You find something else to occupy your time. And that's what is needed. So we hope, with the help of Michigan State Housing Development and our foundation and some great people we're working with Sonera Development, that we will be able to build a long-term safe recovery home so people don't have to go through what Jaime went through.
Yeah.
That's my vision.
We're going to get that done. I know that. And if there's anyone out there listening that wants to be involved either philanthropically or any other way, please let us know. And so we're always looking for new partners and looking for new friends. And so speaking of friends, you have a big event coming up soon, the inaugural Jaime Daniels Foundation Celebrity Roast. And so I know, Lisa, you're working real hard on that. Tell our listeners about it, and can't wait for it.
We have a great lineup of roasters, and Mickey
We're
Redmond.
roasting Mickey Redmond.
Mickey Redmond obviously has very strong shoulders.
Yes.
I'm not sure if he knows what he's in
Yes,
for.
it's no place for a nervous person.
So very, very well said. Bingo, bango. Yeah, nicely done. Yeah.
Along with the roast, we have, which is up live now online, is a silent auction, and we have about 40 plus items, and we are adding to it all the time. It's all online. You can register on your phone, on your computer, and go in, see the items we have, and start bidding now. I know that it definitely has started. And we also have a live auction, so you can view what the live auction items are. And that evening on Saturday, September 7th.
Right, Motor City Casino.
At Motor City Casino Soundboard, we will have the live auction, and you will also have hours to participate again in the silent auction until we close it down prior to the show, I think.
9:30. 9:30. It'll stay live till 9:30. Yep.
And so it'll be up. You get your bids in. It is going to be a packed house, no question. And
is there still room for anyone?
Yes, the after 8 tickets. You come in at 7:15. Hors d'oeuvres, your drinks. View the silent auction. Come on upstairs. The Jake Maurer Band from Nashville, because it's country music for Mickey, will play at 8 o'clock. Then the live auction, silent auction, will go to 9:30. And among the live auction items, a trip on Redbird 3 with the team. I'll be there for one game. We've also got a suite for 16 on New Year's Eve, courtesy of Fox Sports Detroit, which is 4 seats in the lower bowl. All your food, drink, Players Club. You go to the Fox Sports Detroit truck and you come up and see Mickey and me in the gondola. And there's also a suite for 16, courtesy of Fox Sports Detroit. And Pro Billiards has put out a beautiful, magnificent pool table with a ping pong top if you want it. Yep. All the accessories, delivery, setup. It'll be there for the silent auction to view. So it's all online. The live auctions are great. Mike Maltese is going to do the auction for us that night. Doc Emmerich is hosting the event. Marcel Dion, Jim Ralph, Ian Bagg, who has 2 Prime Video specials out. Mike Babcock, Scotty Bowman. We hope John Davidson are all roasting Mickey.
Wow.
And
that's an all-star lineup.
Wait till you see Mick come out. Yeah. It's going to be a night of laughs because, Lisa, as you know, our son had that infectious laugh.
Definitely.
Jaime had that laugh, and he loved Mick, and Mick loved him, and it's going to be a great night.
No doubt. The website?
JamieDanielsFoundation.org, and you can go online there for tickets, for the After 8 tickets, and to register for the silent auction.
Okay, and who are some of your sponsors?
Delta Dental.
Right.
When Delta Dental came on, I couldn't stop beaming because, A, I thought Delta Dental and hockey players who don't have all their chiclets was just a synergy made in heaven. So it was wonderful. So Delta Dental coming on board as our presenting sponsor delighted me. And of the 42 tables that we sold out, I believe 38 or something were all sponsored tables. So it was incredible. But now the public can come on board for the After 8 and be a part of it also.
All right. Excellent. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. And speaking of Delta Dental, next up, we're going to hear from Mike Boback of Delta Dental when Caring for Kids continues on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR. Presented by the Children's Foundation. Once again, here's Larry Burns.
In the studio now is Mike Boback. Mike joined Delta Dental in 2004 as the Vice President of Sales and Account Management for Autos and Labor Market Relations. Mike currently oversees the team responsible for sales, commercial business, automotive accounts, and labor market relations. Mike is a board member of the Greater Detroit Area Health Council and UAW Region 1 Community Caring. Mike earned his bachelor's and master's degrees from Eastern Michigan University. Are you a Huron or an Eagle?
I am a Eagle.
Okay. All right. My wife is a graduate as well, but she remains a Huron.
Okay.
So it's a great place. So, Mike, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that.
As Ken and Lisa mentioned, that Delta Dental has stepped up to be the presenting sponsor of the first annual Celebrity Roast for Jaime Daniels Foundation. So thank you.
Yep, our pleasure. Look forward to being a part of it.
And hopefully we're just getting started.
Yep.
But first, let's talk about Delta Dental of Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, which most people may not be aware of, that it's so broad. and how this organization is emerging really as a dynamic organization that's getting involved in things and growing in their business. So love to hear about that.
Sure. Well, this year, Delta Dental named a new president and CEO, Goran Jakovic, and his fresh perspective and leadership style are taking the company in a new and exciting direction. He believes that we must be a force for good in the region every single day. His philosophy has influenced everything that we do as a company, and it's at the core of our strategic plan.
Excellent. And it seems that I'm reading about your organization, Delta Dental, in so many different communities every day. There's the things, the big commitment you've made for the park on the river, but other things that you've done. It's kind of that conversation of what I read with your colleague, Margaret, led me to sort of approach you guys about helping out with our opioid efforts and Jaime Daniels Foundation. And so tell our listeners a little bit more about what you're doing in the community and why that's important to your organization.
Yeah, Larry, in our effort to be a force for good, we believe that we have an important part to play in this region in terms of supporting the well-being of individuals that live in this community. So beyond offering our core products, which we believe are support people's health and well-being, we also believe in giving back to the communities. So a lot of the things that we're doing are in that effort to make sure that we're supporting people's overall health. So some things that you mentioned and things that we'd like to point out definitely are this investment in placemaking. So we're having a large investment in the west side or the west riverfront, the $5 million investment to build a park to help with children's well-being and play in that area. And we're also doing a similar effort in Lansing with a $250,000 investment in Rotary Park. And that's all designed to attract individuals to the region, to create a more vibrant workplace, but also really to allow people the space to continue to improve their overall health. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We also believe in investing in the schools and in young individuals' education in this area. So we've made a significant investment in the water filtration systems in Detroit Public Schools, and we continue to look for ways that we can give back both with our dollars and with the time of our employees. So we'll continue to engage our staff in projects like Life Remodeled in Detroit, and continue to seek for places like Detroit Public Schools where we can make a big difference with the dollars that we can contribute in this region.
Great. We're talking with Mike Boback from Delta Dental, our partner with the Jaime Daniels Foundation. And all the things you mentioned, Mike, that you're involved in, health, wellness, schools, our foundation, the Children's Foundation, is also very committed to. So that's why I really believe it's a very good partnership that's just getting started. We're now more about wellness, prevention, pathways to healthy lives than we are about specific inpatient diseases. We're not part of a hospital anymore, so we're really grateful for hospitals being there, like Children's Hospital, DeVos Children's, Mott Children's, Toledo Children's, but we're really trying to support programs, as you are, for wellness in all sorts of social determinants of health as well, like the parks that you're supporting. So one of the things that I've also become aware of, and it kind of led me to talking to you about the Jaime Daniels Foundation, is your commitment to the opioid crisis. We read almost every day, if not every day, every week, about opioids, and many times dentists are brought into it because you get your wisdom teeth pulled, and in the past you might get a whole bottle of opioids, and sometimes that leads to addiction. And so what is Delta Dental doing about things like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Larry, and something that we feel a very strong social responsibility to be an advocate and voice for education around the opioid issue. So we know that a lot of times an individual's first exposure to opioids may be when they get their wisdom teeth taken out. And so, that interaction with the dentist may be the very first time that they ever take a narcotic drug like this. And we also know that roughly about 6% of opioids are prescribed by dentists, primarily for, that after surgical care pain relief. So we do know that it's very important that we educate consumers and dentists about appropriate use and prescribing patterns of narcotics.
And we're making progress. I had some outpatient surgery a couple months ago, and they prescribed some opioids, but I had to sign this release about it, and they gave me like 3 pills, and so I didn't use them, but it wasn't a bottle of opioids. It
Right.
might have been 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so I mentioned that it's Delta Dental of Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. So a lot of our listeners certainly know Delta Dental because they have the great insurance, they have a great relationship, but they don't know that you're in Toledo and you're in Ohio and in Indiana. Can you explain a little bit about the business side in those states?
Yeah, so Delta Dental is a not-for-profit organization. It is that not-for-profit charter is in each and every state. So every state in the nation has a Delta Dental plan. We refer to ourselves here locally as the tri-states, so Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. And throughout this region and throughout our plans, we're covering over 14 million individuals.
14 million. Wow.
Yep, that have a dental insurance product that we stand behind as Delta Dental. So very fortunate to have that business, and we're very fortunate to be a part of this vibrant region. And again, as we continue to expand the reach of our product, giving back to the organization is extremely important to us.
Yeah, indeed it is. And so Mike Boback from Delta Dental, is there some thoughts of, as you and your colleagues and other leaders from Delta Dental strategize, is there anything where you want to be in 5 and 10 years that's sort of a strategic vision for the organization?
Yeah, I think our strategic vision is to continue, obviously, to expand our reach as a not-for-profit organization, to provide oral health care for as many individuals in the region as possible, because we know that contributes to their overall health.
Yes.
But also just being a force for good every single day in the region where we do business, to be that type of company.
Yeah, what a nice culture to have, and you're certainly living it every day. So, Mike, thank you very much for supporting the Jamie Daniels Foundation, the Roast, and for all the work that you're doing in Detroit and Lansing, in Michigan and Ohio and Indiana.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
So we look forward to working with you for a long time to come. So that's Mike Boback from Delta Dental. And coming up next, I'll introduce you to this month's Little Champion and also provide an update on some foundation news here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
And this portion of the show is dedicated to the Little Champion program, honoring children who have overcome major obstacles in their young lives. This month's Little Champion is 12-year-old Arjun from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Arjun has autism and through various forms of therapy and years of hard work has been able to improve his coordination, communication, and social skills. Today, Arjun enjoys all kinds of activities like water skiing, basketball, and running, and truly embodies the heart of our Little Champion. Congratulations, Arjun, this month's Little Champion. For more information on the Little Champion program and how to nominate a child, visit yourchildrensfoundation.org/champion. So a couple things coming up. We talked about the first ever Jamie Daniels Foundation Roast of Mickey Redmond. That's on Saturday, September 7th. And I want to thank all of our supporters who supported the Paul W. Smith Golf Classic that was held earlier this month. It was a great event. Collectively, we raised over $425,000 for children's charities. And thank you, Paul W., for all the hard work you've done. And we started something called Paul's Caring for Kids Club. How appropriate on this show. Learn more about that at www.paulwsmithgolf.com. We'd love to have you. Thanks for joining us on Caring for Kids. We'll see you next time.
Caring for Kids with Larry Burns on WJR has been presented by the Children's Foundation.